As teams set their backup plans in case they strike out on Giannis Antetokounmpo, we're going to talk about that. Plus, should Darryn Peterson actually just be going number one in this draft? And our team's overthinking it. We're talking about all that plus more on today's Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On NBA Game Night, where it's every game, every night, and we're here even when they're not games. I'm Hayes. I'm joined, as I am every Friday, by one of the hosts of Locked On Nuggets. My brother Swiper is in the building. How you doing, Swiper?
I'm good. It's NBA draft season, and there's a lot just happening right now. And I've been diving into a lot of different players, just as you know, the needs of each team are so different. And I think there are a lot of really good basketball players in this draft. I think this is actually going to be a deeper draft than people are giving it credit for in the second round. I know there's a lot of buzz right now about the first round and all of the great players that are available, but I do truly believe that we're going to get some really, really good, talented players in the second round that I think could be like starting to 6th, 7th man level contributors to a team this season and projected going forward as well. So I actually think the second round of the draft is going to be where a lot of money is made this year.
Yeah, I mean, the second round was even going to be drafted deeper before, some of the players decided to go back to college. But there's a lot of this, like Ryan Conwell is somebody I look at in the draft who not a lot of people are talking about. I think he's being a little bit overlooked at what he can be in this draft. There's another guy, Keyshawn. What's his last name? I can't even remember his last name. When I was doing my scouting, he's Keyshawn Hall, another guy that's like a 3-level scorer that some are projecting to go more towards the 40s and 50s in the second round. And if that happens, I think he has a nice chance to be a really good player as well. So you're right, Terrence Reed, Trayvon Brazil. There are a lot of players in this draft in that second round that stand out. But we're going to talk about at the top Darryn Peterson, and also we're going to talk a little Jayden Quaintance as well. But it came out kind of in the last couple of days that the Washington Wizards are maybe thinking more about taking Darryn Peterson at number one than it was initially kind of let on. Now, so what makes this interesting is that, for basically the whole year prior to this draft, Darryn Peterson was the de facto number one. Yep. But of course, the stuff in Kansas happened with him not playing late in games, leaving games, stuff like that. I feel like the narrative around him is kind of now built up where people forget, like, Darryn Peterson may have the highest upside of anybody in the top 4 of this draft. What do you think about him and how his stock has fallen? And now there's some talk that he could go back up and be the number one pick.
Yeah, I think it's tough because Darryn Peterson is your kind of modern guard where he's listed at about 6'5". He's extremely quick, extremely athletic. He's a very good scorer, and he gives you shades of your Anthony Edwards. I've heard people go as far as to say like kind of Shea possibilities as a scorer. I think that he is you put him in a situation and you let him just kind of take over the offense. He gives you the vibe of someone that could be a true game changer for a team. And I think that Darryn is going to be like a really, really, really high level athlete at that guard spot. And whoever gets him, I think you're going to get like a premium player that has all NBA upside, maybe MVP upside. And he has the 3-point shot. It's the mid-range. It's the ability to get downhill, but also defensively. He's also a very good defensive player potentially as well. Now, that's going to depend on the scoring load that he has, as everything does. That, when you have a player that has a lot of offensive skill set, it's really difficult to maintain consistent defensive effort and attention. And I think that if he goes to Washington, that would be a great fit for him. And I think that if there's a world where he gets to develop around Trey Young and obviously Anthony Davis, but they got Alexander Sarr and, Bilal is still there.
Trey Johnson too.
Trey Johnson there as well. Yeah, that'd be a really nice situation. Now, I'm not going to lie, Hayes. I've already been kind of made up my mind that it's going to be Keontae George, Ace Bailey, and Darryn Peterson. Like, I have been like kind of salivating at the idea that the Utah Jazz are going to go from the Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley era to now they have an uber athletic backcourt. And then couple that with Keontae stepping into being a 23-7 guy on a really good efficiency. Couple that with Laurie and JJJ and Bryce Simpson-Ball and obviously in Walker Kessler Jr. and Kyle Filipowski. So either one of those situations are going to be really good for him. I wouldn't be shocked if Darryn Peterson went number one. I'm not going to lie to you, though. I think that you could tell me you could take AJ, Darren, or Cameron Boozer, and I can find a legitimate reason why any one of those players should go number one overall.
Absolutely. That's what makes the top four of this draft like so separate from everything else. Not to say there's some really talented players that can go all over the first round of this draft. Yeah. But that's what separates those four is that they all have a legitimate case to be the number one overall pick. I made this take over on Locked On NBA Daily where I was like, if this was the late 90s, early 2000s, Cam Boozer would be the number one overall pick easily because, like, now, of course, we're enamored with athleticism, but the high floor that he has, I think, would have got him go number one overall, and he still could end up the best player overall in the top four here. You can make a case for all these guys, so that's what it's going to be really interesting. I know it's kind of like people have kind of thought that they know exactly how it's going to go, and don't let one of these teams make a trade because then they can really throw it off. But I think that top four, how this draft goes in that top four is going to be really fun to watch when the draft comes around.
Yeah, look, some of this is really like, the draft is a gamble, and it's obviously it's going to be about your fit and what exactly does each team need. But I just think the high-end talent, like the super high-end talent of Darryn Peterson, I could find a legitimately great reason to take him number one overall. And he's also long. He had an 8'7" standing reach. He has almost a 6'10" wingspan, which is incredible at an athlete that size. That's what's at 6'5". He has good big hands as well. Again, in this era where it seems like middle of the floor scoring it's always been uber important, but it might be getting to the point now because defenses are so good. And I've been made this argument multiple times, Hayes. Defense is better now than it's ever been because defense have had to adjust to all-time great offensive personnel and engines and shooting. So you have to constrict the offense as much as possible, and you got to try to make them take a lot of bad shots and make them throw passes in contested lanes. And I think Darryn Peterson is like your prototypical slasher, where he's able to cut through defenses. He can create advantages versus zone looks, heavy man scheme looks, whether it's your ice personnel or you're running box and one in the zone, or even if you're just shading towards him. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of things he can do with that athleticism and with that size that's going to make a big deal at the next level. I want to see, can he continue to grow into a better and better playmaker? But I think what Shea has proven and what Anthony Edwards had proven, even if you're not the best passer of all time and you're not like a high-end level connected passer, if your scoring gravity is so great that it causes the defense to have to deal with you on a possession-by-possession basis, and we're sending every coverage at you possible, I mean, there's a world where Darryn Peterson is one of the 5 best offensive players in the NBA. So
absolutely.
It's going to be incredible to see what happens if they do put him next to Trae Young.
For sure. Another player that you brought up when we were having our conversation planning the show is Jayden Quaintance. Now, this is a guy that if the knee injuries weren't there, he'd be a top 10 pick easily. He may be the best defensive player in this draft overall, but there are talk that he could fall out of the top 20 because of those injury concerns and stuff like that. Do you think teams are being a little too cautious with the injury because of his upside? Do you understand him falling out of the top 20 potentially?
Man, it's tough because I definitely understand he's very raw, and his knee being as injured as it is, the ACL injury at Arizona State, and then obviously dealing with all the stuff he did last year, played just 4 games. I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm not on the other side of a lot of people where they're just look, man, I just don't trust the work. I don't trust the doctors. I don't think that's something you want to add to your roster and your lineup. But I keep trying to remind people, Jayden is not even 19 years old yet, if I remember correctly, that his birthday is on the way. Okay, that being said, I don't care about what he is right now. And you know what? I mentioned to somebody else that I was talking to on another show. I remember when Jalen Duren came out of the draft, and he was super young. He was 18 years old, just this really big, wide body. And I think that's kind of what it is with Jayden right now. I think he's got the injury issues, but again, as your point, he might be the most talented defensive player in the draft, but he's also super young. I'm taking a chance on him if I'm a team, and especially if you're telling me I'm one of these contenders, he starts sliding towards 19 and 21. I'm doing whatever I can to add him to the roster because I think having that kind of talent is more important than anything else in that space. So he's best player available. Even if I have a good defensive front court, I still would want to add him to the roster because if he does turn out to be what the projection was for him, well, then you have a bona fide starter / blue chip on your roster that you can continue to build around, or later on you say, I want to trade and get even better. He's one of those players that makes everything better on your roster.
That's a fact. That's a fact. I'd be willing, depending on, especially if he falls out of the top like 15 in this draft, I'd be willing, especially for the teams that have 2 picks in this draft. You have an earlier pick like in the lottery, one outside the lottery. I'd definitely be willing to take a shot on Jayden Quaintance because, like you said, the youth, the fact that it was one major freak injury.
Yep.
Then he came back too early from it. I could see it. I'd be different if it was like a reoccurring injury or something like that, but it was just really one bad injury that he rushed too quickly back from. So we'll see where that ends up falling. But next up, we're going to talk about a couple of teams and their backup plans as they strike out on Giannis. We're going to start off talking about the Miami Heat as they could pivot towards Ja and Kawhi right after this. And before we get into that, I got to get a message from one of our sponsors, and that is Kalshi. The World Cup is here. It's the most electric time in soccer. On Kalshi, you can trade every single match and the championship game. USA is trading right now 57% to beat Australia, meaning a $100 trade pays out $170 if they win. As the World Cup heats up, those numbers move in real time. You can buy in or out at any time. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house, and as the probability changes, you can buy in or out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade 10. That's Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 and up only. Restrictions apply. Eligibility requirements apply as well. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Also got to talk to you guys about another one of our sponsors, and that is 5 Hour Energy. There are certain flavors that instantly feel like summer. And for a lot of people, those classic red, white, and blue freezer pops are right at the top of the list. Sweet cherry, lime, blue raspberry. It's one of those nostalgic summer flavors everybody recognizes. Now, 5 Hour Energy is bringing that flavor combination into the new Firework Freeze 5 Hour Energy shot, blending sweet cherry, zesty lime, and electric blue raspberry into one refreshing shot inspired by those iconic summer freezer pops. Most energy drinks kind of blur together after a while, but this one stands out because it actually feels fun and familiar. The cherry, lime, and blue raspberry combo really tastes like summer. Ignite your taste buds with flavor of the summer. Get 5 Firework Freeze 5 Hour Energy shot today. For more information, visit 5hourenergy.com. More Locked On NBA Game Night coming up next. All right, Swiper, before we get up out of here, man, we got one more topic. Before we finish the show today, man, we got to talk about these 2 teams and their plan B. So reportedly, this one has come from Brett Siegel, that the Miami Heat are ready to pivot towards Ja Morant and or Kawhi Leonard if they strike out on the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade. What do you think about either? Like, do you see either one of these being a fit? Do you see a world in which they could try to go after both? We don't really know if Kawhi is going to be available or not. We don't know what's going on with the Clippers, what their plans are for their roster, but Ja, we do know, is available. How you feel about these pivots for the Miami Heat?
Man, it's tough, bro, because Ja Morant obviously is an extremely talented player, but it's just so many things about him you just don't know, from the injuries and the off-the-court stuff. And, he's, hopefully he's making better decisions. He has a better crew of people around him that can help him to just, like, brother, you're in the premium spot in life where you're making tens of millions of dollars playing basketball, and you're also really good, and people believe in you, and your team believes in you, your teammates believe in you. I think that if he's able to be himself and be healthy, Ja Morant's still one of the best players in the NBA, like, bar none. So much of this is just going to come down to, are you able to get him from a maturity standpoint to be able to play as engaged as he needs to, and also, like, defensively from a communication standpoint, a locker room standpoint, because obviously there was so much smoke that came out of that locker room last year with the Memphis Grizzlies and disconnect with the coaches. Pat Riley might be the one to get him right. And, they obviously have maybe the best coach in the NBA in Spo. So this would be an ideal fit for him, I do believe, if he were able to end up down there. Now, Kawhi is Kawhi. He would be their bona fide Jimmy Butler replacement. I'd be curious to see, like, Bam Adebayo and Kawhi and, like, Davion Mitchell. However they would want to build that out. I doubt they would want Tyler Hero because they already have Darius Garland, and at number 5 they could end up with either Fleming or Darius Acuff, I would say. So I don't know if Tyler Hero would fit that. So they would have to kind of work around, and maybe Andrew Wiggins, who's up to make $30 million this year as well. But yeah, Kawhi would be a great fit there too. But I still don't think that team, Bam Adebayo, Kawhi Leonard, and friends, would that be enough for them to contend in the Eastern Conference? Maybe. They for sure to be a lot better. But between these two prospects, Ja Morant would easily cost the cheapest. So if they're maybe wanting to look at like a salary dump to clear out some of their cap space with Jovic and all those other players, maybe that would work out for them. That'd be something they would consider doing.
Yeah, the Ja piece of it, like I do think you get Ja to a different situation. I'm not trying to act like Ja hasn't had his own problems, like his shot percentage has dropped, the 3-point percentage has dropped, all the stuff is falling off a cliff for him. But I do think if you get a change of scenery and him going to the Miami Heat, a winning organization, and Eric Spoelstra, we know that the Miami Heat are one of those franchises that have never been against a reclamation project for a former star. They've not been against that before, so they could very well. And I do think the Heat culture part of it could help Ja kind of focus, actually play for something. Him and Bam together in a pick and roll, I really like as well. The Kawhi part, though, is so interesting because Kawhi, when he's healthy, is truly still a transformative player, regardless of the headache that comes with him and all that other stuff. Like, he really is a player that elevates you so much when he's healthy, but he's been so seldomly healthy. It's just a dangerous risk to bet on that. But the Heat have been a team that, between the Dame trade, all the other stuff that's happened, the KD trade, like they've held on to their pieces so tight over the last few years. Reportedly that one of the reasons they missed out on Dame is because they didn't want to give up Jaime Jaquez at that time. Now they seem more willing to do that because of some of the other things they struck out on. I just hope it's not too little too late at this point. Like, they'll make a big trade and then not really move them like the way they think or hope it's going to move.
Yeah, we'll see. The Heat are always in these talks for these players, but they have a bad history of asset management by overvaluing their own assets and then not being willing to give them out. Now, that was Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard. There were some other talks, obviously, that have kind of transpired over the years. So if they want them, I think they should go get them. I think it's really that simple. If you want Ja Morant, at least take a swing. Because I think, number one, like for the Miami Heat fan base, I think that'd be very exciting for them. But then number two, I think Ja Morant really could give you something you haven't had, which is like a guard that truly can be an offensive engine.
And especially you look at their offense last year and how like disappointing it was. Like, they tried some different things, but it never really quite clicked the way that they wanted it to. You get Ja Morant, his ability to get downhill and, like you said, be transformative. Like, there's definitely a chance there. And listen, sign me up too for a Davion Mitchell, Ja Morant backcourt. There's something about that I really like the prospect of that, man. It's going to annoy a lot of teams. I think they're going to frustrate a lot of teams, man.
That'd be fun to watch. Yeah. Obviously, like Davion, obviously, Baylor grad and all that. But yeah, I think that'd be interesting. Tyler Hero, he's had an all NBA run for me. I think 2 years ago when he started off the season, he was playing phenomenal. But, I don't know, like, from a high-end standpoint, if that's the answer for them. But maybe, like, I don't know if you would keep Tyler in that situation. Like I said, I really would need to see what the actual trade package is going to look like. Now, I know they're also interested in Giannis as well, so Tyler would be involved in those talks. But, getting Ja Morant, I think, or Kawhi, would bode them really well in Miami.
When you talk about, like, this Giannis, it seems like Giannis is going to be the first domino that falls, whether it's in the draft or after the draft. I personally, if I'm the Milwaukee Bucks, I want to get it done during the draft. No, there's some stuff that came out that they don't necessarily view that as a hard deadline. They should, in my personal opinion, because you want as many picks possible in this deep draft. Because even if you get a bunch of picks in 2027, it's not, projected to be as deep. There's still going to be some talent in it, but this is your opportunity to really make your move. But with the Miami Heat, do you think that they have enough? Like, we've heard like the Boston Celtics could be involved, all these other teams, like, but it's always seemed like the Miami Heat are the favorite to get that done. Do you still have them as the favorite to land Giannis? Do you think that they're right to start lining up their backup plans?
I don't even know, man. That's tough, bro. Like, if Giannis wants that to happen, then I guess it could happen. But, brother, if I'm Giannis, man, and I don't know how he feels about it, I'm going to the C's. I'm doing my best to get over to the Celtics. That would be an ideal fit. Him and Tatum and the rest of that crew over there. Yeah. Like, Miami would be great. But I don't know if I like Miami more than I like Atlanta, even just from like a fit and a roster standpoint. Maybe Giannis and Bam would be incredible, though. Could you imagine?
Really good front court, yeah.
The defensive front court that would be, and then the passing that would happen as well. So I do think that would be a really fun option to watch. But I'm just not as high on that because I don't think that's actually going to lead to like high-end level playoff basketball. But look, I've been wrong before. I've been wrong about the Miami Heat before. There's a very real world where they end up being a really good team and they could be in the NBA Finals again as well. But if they can do that, then do it. Personally, I don't think you ever turn down getting a player like Giannis on your roster. It's that simple.
Yeah, Feel you on that one. We're going to be talking about the next team and the Celtics backup plan. Reportedly, that's Trey Murphy. We're going to talk about their backup plan to get Trey Murphy on the other side of this. Before we get into that, I got to get into a message from one of our sponsors, and that is Indeed. Workplace chaos can show up fast. The problem is that finding the right candidate can take a lot more time than most businesses can afford. That's where Indeed Sponsored Jobs come in. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach candidates who actually fit what you're looking for based off skills, experience, and location. Finding the right person can make all the difference, whether it's building a business or building a winning team. The Miami Heat like to say that they're not for everyone. What they mean by that is that they're trying to build a specific kind of team with players who fit their culture. The best organizations aren't trying to look at every possible option. They're focused on identifying the people who truly match what they're looking for. When you can spend more time evaluating great candidates and less time searching, everybody benefits. That's exactly what Indeed Sponsored Jobs is designed to help businesses do. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, and more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this show. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. We're Locked On NBA Game Night coming up next. All right, so the other team that we just talked a little bit about, the Boston Celtics and their potential pursuit of Giannis, and it's come up now that they could actually make a pivot towards Trey Murphy if they strike out. Now, I get it, and I agree with you. You have a chance to get Giannis, you get Giannis. But Trey Murphy fits so well in what the Boston Celtics like to do. His size, his shooting, his ability to play defense as well. And I know Trey Murphy had a breakout as far as points per game scored last year, but there's something about Trey that I still think if he gets to the right situation, he can have a near star type of impact on the right team. And so for stylistically, I think Trey Murphy is almost a perfect backup plan for the Celtics team. How you feeling, Swiper?
Yeah, I'm a big Trey Murphy fan. His defense was not what it was billed to be last year, but there's several reasons why for that. I think that if you coupled him next to, I don't know if this would be him, it would be Jaylen Brown, Trey Murphy, and Jason Tatum. That would just be insane to have that level of length, that level of athleticism, and shot making from all three of those players. I imagine this is somehow Derek White would probably have to be involved in this in some way, shape, and form. And so they get off, obviously, that money off that contract. Trey Murphy's on a much more manageable deal. For the level of player that he is, and maybe that he could be, it might end up being a little bit of an underpay as well. He's on a 4-year, $112 million extension. Boston fans, he's a really good shooter. He shot 8.6 threes a game last year, 38% from three, 36 on 8 attempts a game the year before, 38 on 8 attempts, and then 41 on 6 attempts. So this is a high volume shooter who can do a lot of great things. He shot 55% from two the year before. Then he shot 57.5% from two last year as well. So efficient scorer. He's not the best passer in the world, but I do think that as they increased his ball usage with the Pelicans, he got his assists of 3.5 and 3.8. I do think in Boston with Joe Mazzulla, that would be an absolutely dynamic wing to add to your roster that can do a lot of the dribble penetration stuff you're looking for. But even with Jason Tatum's great passing, if he's playing in the low baseline area where he's on the weak side, Tatum gets a drive, you don't pay attention, he's throwing it right up to Trey Murphy, and you got a great rim run. And you get him and Kata and Tatum and Brown on the floor. That's a lot of athleticism, and that group could go head-to-head with most teams. So if they did that, man, that would be another elite move from Brad Stevens.
Yeah, and we've seen it before too. Don't get me wrong. You get Giannis, you can get Giannis because he's so transformative. But we've seen before, sometimes it's getting the right role players that really take you over the top. You look back at Luka and the Dallas Mavericks, getting PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford and the role players help put them over the top. So sometimes it's not always about hitting the home run. Sometimes it's that you need a really good single or triple, right? And that's that role player. And Trey Murphy can be that. I think he provides so much of like I said, the stylistic fit. And then even when Brown or Tatum have to sit, if you're able to keep Brown, Tatum, Derek White, and add Trey Murphy to that, I don't even know exactly what they have to give up. That's such a good core. They still got to figure out their front court, that power forward center position a little bit more and get tougher there. But, there's some guys out there that they can go after to get that done too. It would be such a perfect acquisition for the Celtics to me. Like the moment I saw this, I was like, yeah, that makes total sense. But we also heard that the Golden State Warriors could be a team that's interested in Trey Murphy too, who I think he makes a lot of sense for them too.
Yeah, I mean, now that one is a little, I feel like maybe more complicated because Boston has a little bit of a cleaner cap sheet, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think some of this with now Jimmy Butler, obviously, coming back from the ACL injury, I think that being able to have him on the roster, depending on, what they're going to do with some of the money and everything, that would be great for them as well. I think Steph Curry, man, you have him where he's still a top 15, top 10 player in the NBA. Like, I think that Steph Curry with Jimmy Butler, and then now obviously adding a player of this caliber, I think that'd be great. Draymond making $27 million a year, Moses Moody's making 12.5, but then you got Al Horford at 5.9 and Brandon Podziemski. I would be curious to see, how they make that money work.
Yeah,
between everybody, but I still think Trey Murphy would be a terrific ad, honestly, to legitimately any team. I really am a very, very high on Trey Murphy and what he does on the NBA court.
No, I agree with you. He's one of those players that really, like, because of what he does on ball, off ball, and the fact that he's an active defender. Like you said, his defense did take a bit of a step down, but you're on the Pelicans, like, that he really fits just about any system any modern NBA system he fits. Like, so he makes if he's truly available, I would expect them to have a pretty sizable market. The contract's easily manageable. I think a little over $20 million for his contract. So it's not like it's a crazy contract that you have to fit in. So I like it. We'll see what happens to Trey Murphy. I hope that he goes to a great situation because Trey Murphy is a very, very talented player, man.
Yeah,
and honestly, it's so weird. And maybe we'll talk about this at some point in the offseason where we have that lull between like free agency and like the opening training camp, because the Pelicans honestly have a lot of talented players on their team. I just don't know why they can't get it together and win enough basketball games consistently.
I mean, health is everything, like if you can't get your best players like Zion or whoever, DeJounte, like to stay on the floor together, then it's always going to be impossible to overcome those hurdles. And so they just didn't have and haven't had a large sample size of Herb Jones, Zion, plus having obviously Trey Murphy on the roster together for any consistent stretch of time. And so, if everybody's healthy again, maybe they can continue to climb up the ranks. But like I said, Utah is coming. So I don't know if the Pelicans have really much shot of getting out of that like kind of bottom tier, place in the Western Conference. But if they give off Trey Murphy and they're able to get more draft assets back, they continue to get younger, they continue to build more assets, and there's a world where this benefits the Pelicans really well as well. But overall, like, I'm really curious to see where Giannis, Trey, Ja, and Kawhi, where they all end up this summer.
Yeah. And who knows, by the time we come back next Friday, which will be a few days after the draft, we could have an answer to a number of those players and where they're going to be at. So make sure you guys stay tuned with us, man. Hit that subscribe button because we'll be back next Friday to talk about the impact of the draft and also how it sets up free agency, because free agency only opens up a couple of days after the NBA draft. Before we get out of here, Swiper, you got anything left, man?
No, man. Shout out to the World Cup. Shout out to Team USA. 2-0 so far. That's why I got all this gear. Shout out to Fanatics for sending it out as well. But yeah, man, this World Cup has been crazy.
Yeah, World Cup. I love how many Americans are embracing the World Cup because, like between Chicago and I also grew up some overseas. So, like, I've been watching soccer a long time, and it's just good to see more and more Americans get involved in World Cup because it's an event, man. That's for sure.
Yeah, facts, man. Yeah, great show today, bro.
Absolutely, man. We appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. Make sure you guys stay in tune with us, man. Locked On NBA Game Night is available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube, the Odyssey app, Amazon Fire TV, Roku TV, and Fubo TV, meaning anywhere you want to find us, you can find us there. We'll catch you guys again on Friday, y'all. Peace.